We've caught Jenn Soto in multiple lies already, so I get this theory might be hard to swallow, but it does explain two big mysteries about this case: why Jenn didn't even pretend to search for Madeline, and why the police haven't arrested her yet. Why hasn't Jenn Soto been arrested in connection to her daughter's murder? Let's watch her viral police interview to find out. Thanks to Grizzly True Crime for uploading it, link in description.
Do you have actual tissues?
No, not a word.
I can give you this whole roll.
So Sunday, birthday party. She spent the whole day at my mom's house. We celebrated with the whole family. I was at work. I just started a new job last week or the week before.
Okay. Where's that at?
Walt Disney World at Coronado Springs, front desk concierge.
Okay.
I was finishing up my last day of, no, it wasn't even my last day of training. I was still in the middle of training. Sunday in the middle of training, I couldn't miss to go to her birthday party. So I went to work. It was my family all day. She had the best day. She was so happy when I got home and I saw her. At my house around 8:30 that night. I wasn't home. She got dropped off alone. About 10 to 15 minutes later, Stefan showed up.
At your house in Kissimmee?
At my house in Kissimmee, he called me. Or he texted me, I don't remember. But he let me know he was there and that she was getting ready for bed. She was doing her routine. So she took her nighttime meds and she got in the shower to get ready for bed.
What meds? What does she take?
She takes hydroxyzine.
Okay. What is it for?
It's for anxiety and for sleep.
Okay.
Now, could she take that by herself, or would he have given that to her?
I think she took it by herself. She got home and she had already taken it.
How do you know that?
That's what he told me.
How do you know that? That's what he told me. At the time of this interview, Jenn has plenty of reasons to question Stefan's versions of events, starting with the fact that he was the last person to see her daughter alive, yet she still treats his word as gospel. In my early videos about this case, I thought that was because she and Stefan were co-conspirators, so she knew things she hadn't witnessed firsthand, because that's the story she and Stefan had scripted together to fool the police. But after watching parts of Jenn's police interviews, I'm seriously considering a second possibility. I think the story was still obviously scripted, but Stefan might have scripted it alone, and Jenn is choosing to believe it. Here's how I explained it in my video, How to Spot Self-Deception. It's also possible that Jenn's signs of deception stem from her knowledge deep down that his story to her isn't true. In other words, she might not have any direct knowledge of what was going on or the murder because she willfully ignored it.
He was there when you got home? You got home, they were already at the apartment? Okay.
I don't like her taking her meds without somebody visually seeing, watching her, because I don't want her to accidentally grab the wrong pill. She's comfortable enough to grab the pill while but I'm like, no, I need to watch you take them.
Is there ever been an issue with that in the past where she took too many or took the wrong thing? Or just like a thought in your mind?
No, just a thought in my mind, just me being hypervigilant. I want to physically watch her take her meds and watch her grab two, take them. I don't ever want there to be an accident of she took too many or she took, my biggest fear is that she would take Adderall by accident, her daytime meds.
Got it.
I got home around 10:30. I started getting ready for bed myself. I started eating and taking my meds because I have to take meds. When I went to take my meds, I realized, oh my God, I forgot to take my Saturday night's meds, which is why I felt so weird and so abnormal and not myself Sunday while I was at work. Everyone at work noticed I was acting different and not being myself. Like I couldn't smile in front of the guests. I felt this wave of depression that I hadn't felt in years. It was my bipolar symptoms coming up again that I've been medicating myself for all this time. I realized I forgot to take my meds, and I said, you guys, I need a good night's sleep. I need to take my meds. I sent them to sleep upstairs in the guest bedroom so that I could get a good night's sleep. Suggested that we all sleep together in the same bed together, but not the easiest person to sleep with. She rolls around, she punches, she kicks. We have a king size bed, and she typically sleeps on one side, and she'll end up on my side when we wake up.
Madeline was kicking, punching, and rolling away from Stefan, but Jenn never questioned why. Having an unrelated man in the house, especially in the same bed, presents an obvious risk of abuse. When you factor in Madeline's disability, the prescription meds in the home, and Jenn's own history of abuse, there were enough warning signs for any reasonable person to be on alert. Yet Jenn can still sit here and call herself a hypervigilant mother. She's either the least self-aware liar we've ever analyzed on the channel, or this is a clear case of cognitive dissonance. Dissonance is the discomfort we feel when our actions contradict our self-image. For example, take a drug addict who knows their habit is foolish and deadly, but can't bring themselves to quit. To ease their shame, they might justify it. The drugs aren't that deadly, or they're worth the risk, or quitting is impossible, so why even try? The same principle applies to anyone who does something they regret, like making a bad investment, or picking the wrong degree, or getting an embarrassing tattoo. The more harmful and permanent the decision, the stronger the dissonance and more desperate the rationalizations. When Jenn first allowed Stefan to cross the line with Madeline, she planted the seed of that dissonance. From that point forward, saying no to Stefan would be admitting, even if it was just to herself, that she was in the wrong to let it happen in the first place. And how could a hypervigilant, independent woman be so gullible or negligent? She couldn't. I'm not saying this is exactly what's happening, but it does explain two big mysteries about this case, which I'll get into next.
So I asked her, I'm like, no, please, I need a good night's sleep. If you guys can go upstairs and let me sleep. I had asked Stefan to take her to school in the morning.
We'll go to Sunday. So Sunday you took your meds. What meds, if you don't mind me asking, what meds do you take? And like, how does it put you to sleep deep? Does it help you fall asleep, or does it help regulate you? What kind of happens when you take the meds?
So they do all of the above. They make me sleepy. They help me stay asleep, and they help me function. So I'm stable all day. They only work well if I've got a good night's sleep and if I've eaten with them the night before when I take them, or the night I take them. The medication is called Geodon. Generic brand is called Ziprazidone. I took my meds, and then I told them to start getting ready for bed, to start heading upstairs and get ready because it was already almost 11 o'clock. It's past her bedtime. She needs to go to sleep. So I sent them upstairs. I think he may have come down at one point to pee before bed, and then he went back upstairs. He uses my restroom because the roommates upstairs don't want to share a restroom with a male.
Okay.
Yeah, so he uses my restroom.
You're fine. Sunday night he came downstairs, maybe overnight to use the restroom.
Yeah, and then he went back upstairs and they went to sleep. Or, right, I think they went to sleep.
Okay.
I went to sleep. I was woken up at some time. For the longest time, I've been saying he woke me up at 8 o'clock in the morning because I assumed he was taking her to school and getting ready for school. But in reality, I don't know what time he woke me up.
Guesses, exaggerations, and lies are very similar.
I was out a little bit. It was still a little dark. And I was very sleepy when I got up. I was kind of drunk. But he came in to walk the dog, to put the leash on the dog and walk him.
Was the dog in the room with you?
Yes.
So did he wake you up on purpose, or was it just kind of like the causation of him opening the door and you realizing somebody was there?
Yeah, the causation of him putting the leash on the dog, because the way the dog reacted, he gets very nervous and will urinate if you put the leash on him too directly, you have to like be nice and talk to him. He's a very he's a nervous dog. Yeah. So I got up to try to help him, and he said, "No, go back to sleep. I'm fine. I got this." And I said, "Are you sure?" He said, "Yeah." So I laid back down and went to sleep. I heard noise in the kitchen, but I'm not sure who it could have been getting ready. But it could have been Stefan. It could have been any of my roommates. I fell asleep again, and I didn't wake up, I think, until 9 o'clock in the morning.
Did you ever leave the bedroom in that time frame?
No.
So he came in, you were kind of awoken up based on him interacting with the dog, but you stayed in bed, you didn't leave the bedroom. So if you woke up at like 9, so you never...
That morning.
Monday morning.
No.
So the last time you would have been Sunday evening?
Sunday.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
You're fine.
I want to see her. Yeah.
Take a minute, okay? While you take a minute, I was going to ask you earlier, has anybody reached out to you during the time that you've been investigating this to talk about had anything else? Negative, positive, neutral?
My best friends have all been in contact with me just to try to help me. There's setting up Facebook groups, flyers.
Jenn isn't the one setting up Facebook groups or distributing flyers to find Madeline. Her friends are. As I mentioned in previous videos, Jenn is behaving like someone who already knows what happened to Madeline. But it's also possible this passivity comes from her not wanting to find out for certain. In other words, she might be in deep denial. We've caught Jenn Soto in multiple lies already, so I get this theory might be hard to swallow. But it does explain two big mysteries about this case. Why Jenn didn't even pretend to search for Madeline, the way we've seen so many other guilty parents do on this channel. In fact, many of them bend over backwards to make a spectacle about how hard they're searching. And why the police haven't arrested her yet. They were so thorough and efficient with Stefan Stearns that I assumed they would have pounced on Jenn if they even found one iota of incriminating evidence. All that said, even if I'm right about this theory of Jenn being in deep denial or cognitive dissonance, it's no excuse for whatever role she played in Madeline's ongoing abuse or murder. And my money is still on her having some direct knowledge of the crime, even if it was as an accessory after the fact. Because there are aspects of this interview that denial alone doesn't explain, like what Jenn is about to do now. Pay close attention to her story about going to the lab. And if you have a copy of the deception deck, see if you can make a royal flush. I'll be showing cards that I pick out on screen as we listen.
Negative interactions with the public or anything? Nobody's reached out with tips or accusations or anything like that?
Not that I've seen. I've been avoiding social media because my family's telling me to not go on.
Would you be okay with our digital people looking at your phone to verify there's no stuff coming into socials, texts, things like that?
That's fine.
Do you have the phone?
Yeah.
What they'll do is they'll plug it in, they'll do a forensic download of it so they have the data. That way they can go through it and say, we did receive things, we didn't receive things, here's the communications in and out, things like that, so we can verify that for you.
That's fine.
What's your password on it?
030288.
030288. Okay.
Is that a birthday?
My birthday.
It's your birthday?
Yeah.
My birthday is tomorrow. Right?
Today's the 1st. I didn't even know. This is the worst birthday ever.
I guess we. That way they can get that going so we can get it back to you before we're out here. We don't keep it from you.
No, it's okay.
So you said about 9 o'clock on Monday you wake up.
Yeah. I wake up. I have a doctor's appointment. I leave sometime between 9:30 and 9:45. And I head over there. It's blood work appointment. The appointment's for 10:15, but they take a while to see me.
Where was your appointment at?
LabCorp. And do you want me to tell you exactly which one?
Sure.
Oh wait, I have my phone.
When we get it back, we'll get back to it.
It's, if you need to Google it, it's the LabCorp across the street from the Loop in Kissimmee.
Okay, got it.
Had my appointment. I finished there sometime between 11:15. Then I headed home. When I got home, Stefan was there.
A few things that stood out to me about Jenn's lab appointment story. First, she told it in present tense, which is far less reliable than using past tense. Second, her timeline was vague. She mentioned leaving home sometime between 9:30 and 9:45. The appointment was scheduled for 10:15, but they usually run late, so we don't actually know when her appointment was. Then she capped it off by saying she left around 11 or 11:15. Finally, she said she headed home afterwards, which isn't the same as saying she went home afterwards. Headed is a lot like the word started, which is a card in the deception deck, and it indicates the beginning of an action, but doesn't necessarily mean that the action completed or even fully developed. I couldn't quite hear clearly enough whether or not Jenn said, I had my appointment. But if she just said had my appointment, that was a fragmented sentence. And this is another sign of deception and a card in the deck. If a sentence is fragmented, especially in a way that is grammatically awkward, it may be deceptive. That doesn't necessarily mean that Jenn's story is made up, but I do question how long she was at the appointment, if she actually had an appointment scheduled beforehand, and what she did after leaving the office. I'm also curious about the veracity of Jenn's story about Stefan resetting his phone, which she's about to discuss next.
When I got home, Stefan was there. I had talked to him a little bit earlier while I was waiting for my blood work appointment, and he let me know, oh, I'm so sorry, I left my phone at home by accident. School, everything went great. She got up super early, got up really quick. She slept most of the way in the car. I asked her multiple times if she wanted McDonald's, but she said no. Because that was the plan, was that they were going to stop at McDonald's that morning and go get breakfast.
Okay.
He said that he had gone to the bake shop and they were closed and they didn't open. So he waited there for a while and left, and then said he was going to go back later. When I saw him at the house, everything was normal. We were chatting, we were talking, he was acting normal. He was sitting in my computer chair just messing around on his phone. While we were hanging out, he mentioned something along the lines of, oh man, I've been avoiding this phone update for a really long time. I should probably update it now. And I said, do it, don't avoid it, just get it over with. And he updates his phone and then tells me, oh my god, I don't know what button I just pressed, but I just factory reset my entire phone. And I said, how the hell does that happen? That gives you options now when you reset your phone? He goes,
Stefan accidentally reset his phone while updating, but Jenn quoted herself as saying, that's an option when you reset it. So which is it? Was he updating the phone or resetting it? Is Jenn unintentionally leaking what their actual conversation was about, or is it just an innocent slip of the tongue? When I hit play, listen closely to Jenn's story about what happened after this conversation.
apparently I wasn't paying attention and I just pressed the button and it happened. And I said, oh, that's unfortunate, that sucks. Later on, he tells me he's going to go back out, and I think this is around 12:30, 1 o'clock.
Still on Monday?
Yes, still
Okay.
Monday. 12:30 in the afternoon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. He tells me he's going to go back out. He's going to stop at a few gaming shops, and then he'll meet me at the house at 2:30 so we can get together. He left. I hung out in the house for a while. Was waiting for 2:30 to roll around. 2:30 rolls around, and I'm already calling Stefan, and he's not picking up his phone. 2:30 comes, I leave. About 10 minutes later, I get a phone call from him going, I just got back home. I left my phone home again. I'm so sorry. How long ago did you leave? And I said, about 10 minutes ago. He goes, I'm so sorry, I missed it. I really wanted to go with you. And I'm just like, it's fine. I figured he wasn't going to make it because when I looked at the time when he left and said he was going to visit 3 shops, I didn't think he had enough time to visit them. He told me while he was gone that he got a flat tire somewhere on 182. The wheel just shredded and fell apart. So he was changing the tire, and it took him a really long time to do it. He said he hurt his thumb while changing the tire, like the frame or something slipped and something pinched his finger, and he ended up having to yank it out. And he said he hurt his finger.
Right after I pressed play, the first words out of Jen's mouth were later on. This is what we call a temporal lacunae, a leap through time. Liars often use this technique to skip over the most incriminating parts of their stories. So naturally, I'm most curious about what happened immediately after her alleged conversation with Stefan about updating his phone. If you're a longtime viewer, you probably also caught that Jenn mentioned Stefan went to 3 vape shops. 3 is known as the liar's number because it shows up so often in fabricated stories. We know now that the story about the vape shops is in fact a lie. So the more intriguing question is, whose lie is it? A theme we've explored throughout this video and my last one. Is it a lie that Stefan told Jenn and she's just repeating it? Or is it part of a scripted story they cooked up together to cover up what they both knew Stefan was actually doing, which was hiding Madeline's body? As for the flat tire, that's an unusual detail, which makes it more likely to actually be true. When liars script their stories, they usually optimize them for believability and memorization, so they typically omit details like accidents or mistakes. Flat tires, crushed thumbs, stubbed toes, these are the unpredictable quirks of real life, not the type of things you typically see in hoaxes.
Touch on something real quick. When you were calling him, he eventually told you that he left his phone there. Did you hear the phone at the house?
No. If it was anywhere, it would have been upstairs and I wouldn't have heard it. It would have been in the guest
Do
bedroom.
you typically go upstairs?
Who, me?
Yes.
Only if I'm doing laundry.
That was all. I was just curious if you had heard the phone when you were trying to call him that day.
I didn't. So he tells me all that. I get off the phone with him. I'm waiting. Wait for about an hour and 10 minutes. 4:04, the bell rings, and I'm waiting. I'm the first in line. And she doesn't come out.
You were in your car?
I was in my car, in the car line, yeah.
Okay.
At this point, it's been a few minutes. She should have been out by now, because she's usually one of the first kids out. She knows I'm in the front line. And I'm holding up the line behind me, because there's kids getting in the cars behind and they're all waiting. They can't get around me, right? So I start calling her, forgetting that I have her phone on me. I had found her phone earlier that morning. She had left it at home. And I brought it with me because she does this often. She does leave her phone.
Where was the phone at in the house?
It was on top of the dresser in her bedroom.
Downstairs or I've never been in your house.
Downstairs.
Okay.
So, just so you know, I have a 4-bedroom townhouse.
Okay.
The living room has a partition in it, a fake wall kind of thing. That's got her bedroom in it. That's got a bed, a dresser, and a desk on it. Does she sleep there? No. She'll hang out there. She'll use her computer and hang out there. That's her hangout spot. But she primarily sleeps with me every night in my bed. That's because I know the roommates wake up super early in the morning. They're going to be in the kitchen. They're going to wake her up if she's sleeping out in the living room. So I don't.
So your bedroom downstairs, her makeshift bedroom downstairs, guest bedroom upstairs.
Yes.
Got it.
Her dresser, her phone was on her dresser. When I found it, I was like, oh my god, she's putting the phone down. It's great. I brought it with me to the school because I was just gonna yell at her and then just hand it to her so she could have something to do on our way home. 4:10 rolls around and she's still not out, or 4:09. And then at this point, I'm feeling the pressure from the cars behind me. I'm like, okay, they're all full. They're all waiting for me to leave and she's not here yet. So I take off. And I'm thinking, maybe I missed her. Maybe I forgot to tell her I was picking her up from school today because I don't know if she knew that I wasn't working. I don't know if she knew if I was off. So I asked, I don't know if I told her that I was going to get her. So I left thinking maybe she walked. That's pretty close to school. If I can't pick her up at school, that's where I tell her to. I drove the path she would have walked. I didn't see her.
If Jenn thought Madeline was at the office, why didn't she just call ahead to check? That's what I would have done. When someone acts in a way that seems weird or irrational, it naturally raises our suspicion. But we need to be careful about giving too much value to the difference between what we think we would have done in a given situation and what someone else did. It's just too subjective. On your screen now are my 3 tiers of inconsistencies. And this kind of thinking is right down there at the bottom. Statements like, I would have called ahead, so she must be guilty, or I would have cried more, or I'd never let that creep in my house, so she must have been involved. This is also where I categorize things like body language analysis. Instead, I prefer to focus on internal inconsistencies, contradictions between a suspect's own words and actions. A classic example is Kate and Jerry McCann. They called 911 to report their daughter's kidnapping, but when the police actually arrived to investigate, they didn't cooperate. Their words conflicted with their actions. Jenn is about to make a Tier 1 inconsistency. See if you can spot it.
A little too early. And I said, okay, let me go drive back down and wait along the path she would walk and just wait. And I parked and I waited. I waited. I'm not sure how long I waited. Maybe somewhere between 5 to 10 minutes. She still wasn't there, and I looked at the time, and I'm like, okay, she should be back at my mom's office by now. Maybe she took a different path, and I didn't see. So I went, no, she's still not here. And I'm like, that's really strange. So I call. I don't know if I text or I call. I think I text her. And I asked, hey, or I called, no, I called her. I asked, and she said, no, she didn't make it to first or second period. And I said, what do you mean? She was dropped off close to the school. She should have been in school. She goes, no, she didn't make it to first, second period. I said, please check with the rest of your friends, see if she made it to any of her other periods. At some point in this, I emailed one of her teachers asking, actually emailed a few of her teachers and 2 of them responded. One of them said, no, she did not make it to class, and I checked her attendance for the rest of the day. She wasn't at school at all. Like, he sent me a screenshot of like her attendance and it said 0, 0, 0.
You still have that on the phone?
Yes.
Okay.
If you need to know what app, I'll tell you what app. It's a special school app.
Got it.
He said she was missing all day. And at this point, I start to panic and freak out because that can't be the case. She was dropped off. I had to go check her attendance at school, but the office had closed already. The lights were off. I could see a student sitting in there in the darkness, but I couldn't see any of the administrators or anybody in the office. lights were off, everything was closed. They wouldn't allow me in.
Jenn doesn't know where Madeline is, she's not at the office, she's not on the path, and then she sees some students inside the school, obscured by the dark. And what does Jenn do? She immediately determines that none of them are Madeline and goes back to her car. It's possible that actually happened, but it seems to conflict with her story. She knows Madeline was dropped off and might have played hooky for some of her classes. She knows she hasn't come out yet because she was the first car in the pickup line. So how can she know for sure that none of those students were Madeline? She doesn't report knocking on the window or peering through the glass or waving at one of the students to come open the door. Of course, she may have done that and she just left it out. Maybe it just wasn't that dark, or the students were obviously older and not in Madeline's grade, or they were clearly part of some sort of after-school activity or sport that Jenn knew Madeline wasn't involved in. But if I were one of the detectives interviewing her, I would definitely ask some follow-up questions about this. And maybe they will. I've only seen parts of this interview. So let's keep listening.
I think at this point the teacher had responded to me and told me she didn't make it to school at all. I start having like a freaked out panic attack.
Are you still just you at this point? Is it you and Stefan?
It's me and my sister. And I want to say one of my Catherine. I start panicking, and I think at this point I call Stefan and I tell him, hey, because she didn't make it. She's absent today. There's no attendance of her at all today. I'm like, right now. And he said, okay, I'll be there. And he came to the office. And there for like 3 hours, I think. Eventually I contact one of my friends whose husband works, or ex-husband works for OCP, or for you guys.
Orange County Sheriff's Office?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I messaged him and I talked to him and I asked him what I should be doing because you guys aren't responding quick enough.
Would you know his name? Where he works?
Yes. Nick Mann.
Okay.
Or Mahon. Not
Do you
sure.
know what he does here?
I think he works for SWAT.
Okay.
Sure.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
He tell you to wait?
I can't remember anymore. I think he let us know that there were other kids missing in the area, which is why you guys weren't responding quick enough. I think an 8 and a 9-year-old had gone missing around the same time too. In a playground, they forgot to tell. They didn't tell their mom they were going to the playground or something like that. So all the cops were over there on that side of Hunters Creek. My sister's boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, whatever he is, thought it would be a good idea to go to the park and talk to a cop there and see if he could bring a cop back, and that's what he did.
Okay.
And then at that point, that's when the cops started asking us questions, taking a report.
For my analysis of that body cam footage, click the video on your screen now. Want more of this interview? Let's get this video to 50,000 views. You can help by liking and sharing. Till next time, stay true.